Mr. Shop?
You can say shop or shout, either or.
Okay.
Charlie works too.
I'll go with Charlie. So, what major steps do you think we should do to help get our debt under control?
Okay, folks, this is real simple. I believe in limited government. Where our founding fathers never saw this massive bureaucracy that we now have in Washington, D.C. The best government, the most reliable, the most cost-effective government is local government. We need to strip the size of the federal government down, way down, get rid of a lot of those departments, return control to the states, return control to the counties, return control to the local cities, return control to the local school boards. That's how we pay the bills. Balancing a budget and keeping that huge bureaucracy in Washington does nothing. We need to return control to you, the local taxpayers. And that's the first and foremost thing I will fight for in Washington. Because if we don't, our children will be at risk because this republic may not survive. We cannot continue to survive with the massive burdens we have. And lastly, I want to point out an error that was made a little earlier. I was a Marine for 28 years. This is your right. My opponent over there on the worthy left said he was on the far right. The military right's over here.
I'm on the people's right, Charlie. I'm on the people's right.
You can always tell when you get a group of politicians together, there are two rights.
Anyway, that's what I would do. I would stop in the bureaucracies, send control back to the states like they originally our founding fathers wanted us to have, something I really believe the Tea Party believes in.
Thank you. Mr. Carlos. So, with the U.S. over $15 trillion in debt, what is your opinion of farm subsidies? Should anything be done about them?
Well, subsidies generally are not necessarily consistent with free market principles, but you can't be a purist. We are definitely in debt. Every year our budget's getting more and more out of control, and that needs to be addressed. And I think farm subsidies perhaps is not the first place we need to start. Entitlement reform, the welfare state, the cradle to grave, assurances that Americans, well, they're not really assurances, they're supposed assurances. Those are the first things we need to address to get the deficit and the budget under control. I mean, a government simply can't spend more than it takes in indefinitely. Certainly maybe there's a year or two, there's an emergency or a crisis in which the federal government spends more than it takes in, but it's a way of life in Washington and it's a way of life in Sacramento. And most of us know that it's unsustainable. So something's got to give, and I don't know that farm subsidies is the place to start, but certainly everything needs to be on the table.
Mr. Ray, the government still owns a significant part of GM, roughly to the tune of $25 billion. GM's CEO, Daniel Ackerson, said that the U.S. has a form of, quote-unquote, hybrid capitalism, where the government should assist ailing companies. Do you feel that we should have bailed out GM and the other auto manufacturers, and do you really think that we should have this form of hybrid capitalism in the United States?
No. To get this economy going, there are three basic areas that we can work on, and it's not subsidizing things that aren't making it. One of the reasons they're not making it is because their union contracts are too high. And so they come back to the American taxpayer to pay the bill that they can't pay because they agreed with unions to pay them fees that won't work. What we need to do right now is to get our energy industry fired up. Oil, coal, natural gas, nuclear, and the renewables, which are not ready for prime time yet. That'll employ over 1 million people within 12 to 24 months. Get the housing industry back on track. That's another 1 million to 2 million people within 24 months. And small business, which is an absolute job-making machine. Businesses over 500 people, large businesses, over the last 15 years have generated 1.8 million jobs. Very nicely done. Small businesses with less than 500 people, over the last 15 years have generated 21.9 million jobs. They are job-making machines, almost 1.5 million a year. They're being regulated and taxed to death. Get off their back, let them go to work. When John F. Kennedy said, a rising tide floats all boats. When a lot of money is coming into the government and there are opportunities, you can take those people that are on welfare and entitlements that won't get off because they've got that mentality, some of them second, third generation. But when there are opportunities out there that you can show them they can make even more money than what they're doing now, you can get them to move move over, start to cut down those entitlements, then start to tear into the national debt and get things under control.
Thank you. Mr. Kaur, what is your opinion of this hybrid capitalism that Mr. Ackerson from GM says the United States has? And do you believe that we should bail out companies such as the auto companies when they are having tons of trouble?
No, I don't. I don't think that we should ever bail out any private company. Honestly, you think about it this way. If a private company is doing something that's going to cause them to go out of business, they should go out of business. If they're that bad at it, they should stop. The government shouldn't be a safety net that allows companies and businesses to behave badly and to think that they're just going to be, oh, I'm going to be fine, the government's going to be on the out. We should never have done it, not once, not ever. We opened up a floodgate, and now we're telling companies, hey, if you have enough employees, and you do something that's going to make you go bankrupt, and it's going to put all those people out of work, well, us up here in D.C., we don't want that many people on the unemployment rolls, so we're going to give you money to stay open. It's a bad way of doing business. If a company is going to go out of business, it's between themselves and their shareholders and their employees. And if they have to retool and restructure in order to stay in business, that's what they need to do. They can't be coming with hat in hand to the government saying, please help me because I couldn't do it on my own. By the way, while you're helping me out, I'm going to pay, $150 billion in bonuses using your money.
Right on.
Mr. Tubbs, this is a little change of pace here, but what do you think the federal government should do to limit illegal immigration?
Good question. Illegal immigration is different than illegal immigration. Two different things. Most, if not all of us, are sons and daughters of immigrants. Illegal immigration can be done. Again, I'm going to use the leadership theme, if we're willing to solve the problem, which I am. You do it, start with three principles, or three ways to get it done. First, secure the border. Really secure the southern border with fences that'll stop people from coming over. Use 21st century technology with a response team to stop the illegal crossings. Second, the Bracero program was started in World War II. It worked fantastically. Guest worker program. I have family in farming. I've worked with landscaping during college. I've worked with illegal immigrants. Not on my family farm, by the way, just for... But they're necessary in this economy. But it's the economy that's key. So you allow for a guest worker program, but you take away any taxpayer-subsidized incentives. You don't allow them to have welfare, disability, Social Security, unemployment, all these things that American citizens have to sustain them, the safety net. You don't give it to the guest worker. So if they can't take care of themselves here, they go home and let their country do it. And then the third part of that immigration solution is to close the anchor baby loop. You can do it with the law, and if the U.S. Supreme Court shoots it down, then I'll support a constitutional amendment to fix the 14th Amendment that allows for the anchor baby loophole. Thank you.
Mr. Ray, do you see the Constitution as more of a living and breathing document that should change over time, or do you believe that is a document that should be adhered to more strictly as it was originally written?
More strictly. Their basic understanding from their background was sufficient enough that it created a nation that became the greatest nation in the history of the planet. Rome conquered and ruled its entire known world for 500 to 1,000 years. Their big accomplishments were they had a one-lane cobblestone road throughout the empire, and they had aqueducts that transferred water. Does anybody want to compare the Roman Empire to the United States of 250 or 260 years of what we've developed? Apparently what they did a pretty good job. Over 50 of the 55 signers were Christian-believing, God-believing men. It's American Christianity, family, and a democratic republic, which if you analyze history is not the norm, it's the exception, where the average human being has a say in the government. That's the key to what created the government, the country that we live in now.
Thank you. Ms. Van.